Fisher, and this is Amy Fisher at Large. And today I'm in Dr. Mark Leitman's spectacular office in East Brunswick, and we're going to talk about Dr. Leitman's work as an ophthalmologist, a book he has out, and about his wonderful office. So Dr. Leitman, let's start with talking about your book. You have this book that's just being published, which actually has been in the works for a long time. So first of all, what's the name of the book?
Manual for Eye Examination and Diagnosis.
Now it's sitting here and you have a unique cover. Could you tell us about the cover, the pictures on the cover, first of all?
On the cover are my parents, mother and father, who I'm fortunate that they are still alive to witness this. And I have two of my nurses and a friend of mine, a girlfriend of mine.
That's really great. And the book is dedicated to one of your nurses?
Yes, inside there's a dedication to my other nurse who's with me about 25 years.
That's great. All right, so now you've really started writing a book a long time ago. How did that come about?
I was doing an ophthalmology training program at Manhattan Eye and Ear when I was a medical student. You rotate through all the different specialties so you learn which one you want to go into. And when I was at Manhattan Eye and Ear, it was one of the best places in the country, and everybody had a 4.0 average, and they said, you'd never get in here. So I said, all right, well, I have to do something special. So I said, and there was no book dedicated to medical students for them to read. The smallest book was 500 pages at the time. So I said, well, there's a need for it, and I can win, so I'll do it. And I was in the Army at night, and a MASH unit, so I'd bring all the papers, and every Thursday night on 42nd Street, Manhattan, I'd bring Scotch tape, and the other 40 doctors were all sitting watching me. They didn't know what I was doing. So then by the time I became a resident, I went to an interview at Einstein, and the chairman there, which was one of the best programs in the country, and he said, oh, you like to write? When he saw the book. And I said, yes, I like to write. And he said, well, you're welcome aboard. So it got me the residency at a really good place. And that was 32 years ago. And then we were using it, in fact, when I was a first-year eye resident at Einstein, the medical students were coming in to me, and they were using my book. It was a tremendous honor that I was using my book to teach them, and I'm still in training.
Right.
So it worked out very well, and then I keep up every 5 years. I did another edition, and this edition turned out especially good. What happened is, it was been translated into maybe 5-6 languages already: Japanese, Russian, Greek, Indonesian, Indian, and Spanish, and it's been very successful. But now Johnson & Johnson, when they found out Russian contact lens company was giving it out to all the medical students in Russia, Johnson & Johnson said, why don't we do it here? They're the biggest contact lens company in the world. They make AccuView contact lenses. So I said, as soon as I talked to them about it, they said, we're doing it. So now they just bought 40,000 copies, and they're giving it out to all the students in America. And now they're talking about doing it in Chinese and Japanese in Asia, and they have someone in Venezuela to give it out to all of South America. So it'll probably be the #1 eye book in the world now.
That is so fantastic. And here you are right in East Brunswick. What does the book talk about? I know for beginning ophthalmology students, it's an introduction to their course of study. Is that what it covers?
Yes, in medical school, you don't really get any lectures in ophthalmology that are timely, so that when you go through your rotation, you may know nothing. So, and the books that they have, most of them are like 500, 600 pages, and you only get a week or two in ophthalmology to rotate through the clinic. So you just stand there, and you hope you have a good resident to teach you something. But with this, you could read it. It's 110 pages. And there's 325 diagrams of almost everything, that 99.9% of what you see during the week in an eye clinic. So you can actually read it a day or two before and know what's going on. In fact, almost no textbooks go into refraction, almost nothing in any of the introductory books. And yet half the day in an eye clinic when you're learning, you're doing refraction, watching a glass being fit, lenses. So I said, that has to be in it, because I stood there watching. I wasted so many days watching refractions. I had no idea what they were doing. So that's why it worked. You know what? When something's needed, it works. Right. I learned it.
So now it's being distributed essentially all over the world. Will you continue to update it?
Oh, sure. Probably more now. because the more it's used in sciences, you have to have things that are up to date, and there's a certain cost factor. If they're producing 100,000 a year, then they can start updating it every year.
Right. Now, is anybody interested who is not a medical student? Would anybody would like to look at your book? Is it possible to buy a copy, obtain a copy somewhere, or in the
It's
line?
on the Barnes and Noble reading list.
Oh, great.
They can get it. The thing is, it is geared specifically to the student who
Right.
wants to learn, and that goes, physician's assistants, family
Right.
practitioners, people that want to know, because it goes into the instrumentation.
Uh-huh. Well, I just thought people who live in East Brunswick might like to have a copy because you're in East Brunswick.
It's interesting because just about every significant eye disease is in there. There must be 300 diseases listed.
Wow.
With a synopsis of each.
All in 110 pages.
Yeah, that's the amazing. Every word I beat to death. I crossed, and you have no idea how much I cut. And anything that didn't go through the fifth reading,
Yeah.
didn't make it.
To be able to write something so significant in a few pages is quite an accomplishment.
I look at it today and I say, I can't believe it. For example, on glaucoma, it's like 6 or 7 pages. But here's another very interesting thing. I go, during the 30 years, whenever I see a good picture anywhere, in a journal or a friend has a good picture, I ask him, can I have it? And I recognize him for it. And I asked, Pfizer's the biggest drug company in the world, and my salesman was in here, and he said, you can take our pictures off our website.
Wow, that's great.
And they make the #1 drug in the world, Xalatin. In fact, they asked me to be a consultant, so they told me I can go around the country for them and lecture, and they'll pay me for it. But they gave me 15 new pictures, color photos of glaucoma. It was that's what I know now. It's really good. With these pictures, it's just spectacular.
That's great.
And Johnson & Johnson, who's bought the 40,000 copies, they let me use their website.
Great.
So I took maybe 20 pictures off theirs on the chapter, especially on contact lenses. So it's really, over 30 years, I put in the best of the best that I could find.
Right. That's wonderful. Well, we wish you lots of luck with the book, and we hope it continues to be updated, and you're a famous author.
Thank you.
Now we want to talk a little bit about your wonderful, wonderful office. Okay, Dr. Leitman, your office is truly unique. How did you get started on decorating it?
Amy, it's about collecting, treasure hunting, and I love new things. Interesting things are usually new, and I always seek new things. Every single weekend for 20 years at least, I've gone out looking for something new. I like the places. I like to talk to the person from whom I obtain the new object. I like beauty. Rocks, nature, I look for the beauty in nature. There's a negative to it, but I look for the beauty, and it's fun. And flowers, I go to botanical gardens. I go looking for rocks. I've gone to maybe 20 botanical gardens and photographed. On the ceiling, we have the pictures of the flowers. On the ground, we have the rocks. I used to have all the different trees hanging from the ceiling, and the fire department made me take them down, which was good because it got me to be able to put something else up. And I'm into anything bright and colorful and beautiful. Here I have a book of beautiful women with the beautiful stones and beautiful feathers. And then we have the beautiful rocks, jewelry, dolls from each country.
Well, when I first came to your office, you just had rocks, and you have expanded considerably since then. Also, you have these quotes that you've printed out. How do you choose the quotes?
Inspirational sayings. I think part of it is after I got divorced 10 years ago, especially, you start looking for what's the point of all this, and you start looking for positive stuff, and you look for sayings that inspire you. In fact, sometimes someone who comes in divorced will look at the sayings, and it rings immediately because they get where it's coming from. It's the positive. It's start again. And what I love about starting again that was spectacular was you bounce back up but in a different direction. and you get to see everything from a new perspective. It's and as a single person, you get to meet so many people, and it's exciting. And each person I meet, you grow, and I always try to leave them with something too.
Now, when do you actually install everything?
It's a sequence. 5 o'clock on Friday, I'm off to the dance, looking forward to Manhattan or a show. Whether in Manhattan, there's always shows, pen shows, literally a writing pen, or a flower show, postcard show. There's always a show in Manhattan, and I look forward to it. And then after the show, I'll go to a museum, and then I'll go out dancing at night, and I'll go dancing Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday night. It's so exciting that I don't even believe that this country is so great, what it offers you, especially this location. So I don't think there's a weekend I don't come home with 5, 6 souvenirs from where I go. And on the way, where every magazine, even in the gym, I'll pick up a magazine, I'll always write down a quote, something inspirational, positive stuff.
So you put it in just as you find it.
As you find it, but always I'm looking. And I get excited. I used to go with my family to visit relatives. And I remember even 30 years ago, it bothered me to be passing all these things by and not stopping. But now I stop. I'll make 10 stops before the destination. That's the saying I have up. It's the journey, not the destination. Because a lot of times I never make it to the dance on a Sunday night or the museum on a Sunday. But I went with my friend this weekend into the city, and we stopped. We went on Weehawken, on the by the Lincoln Tunnel, on the boat trip, and it was really beautiful. And we went back and forth. We didn't get off. We never made it to the Whitney Museum. We went to a show, but never made it to the museum because we went on the boat. So really, it's that trip, the journey.
One of the things I wanted to ask Dr. Leitman is, what is the reaction of your patients when they come in here for the first time?
There's always a reaction. It ranges from, one definition of art is it must stir. So I want to stir one way or another. And like my nurses always say, some of the people say they never come out of their houses except to go to the eye exam. I deal with a lot of elderly people. And they come here and they're stirred. Some will complain about the seat, but they get a kick out of complaining. One told me just yesterday, he said, I get why the seats are so uncomfortable. You're getting us to force us to get up and walk around and look. Just yesterday. I mean, but every day. Another one just yesterday said, it feels like that place is falling in on me. So it's not all positive, but a lot of people, the ones who really get it are collectors. And I'll get one a day, and they'll love it. They get it.
That must make you feel good. Now let's talk a little bit about some of your favorite items here. First, let's start with this jewelry. Where did that come from?
Well, usually when I go into Manhattan, I park in Chelsea and walk over to Broadway with all the jewelry, the imported custom jewelry. And I always start out and I get one at least every weekend. And they're like $2.50, $3 each. And I made this collage of jewelry, and I just like it because it shines, it's beautiful, and it's another thing to collect that's nice, and it fits in with I started out all natural, but then I saw that man makes pretty good stuff, and so then I started adding what man makes.
And here's a very nice quote. Do you want to read this one? What's the use of living
if you don't feel alive?
I like
that.
that.
Reach for the stars, but be sure you keep your feet on the ground. That was Teddy Roosevelt.
Now here is where you really started with these rocks along here. Those are some of your originals. Now, did you actually go to those places and collect them, or did you go to rock shows?
You're not allowed to take rocks from anyone's ground. Everyone owns something. You can't take it from national parks. You depend on the rock shows. And they're exciting. It's a treasure hunt to go to the rock show. You don't know what you're going to find. And one reason I moved on to shells and feathers, I go to pet stores looking for feathers and zoos at the bottom of the cage, is that I have every rock. I've done it. And for a collector, you don't want to leave without a new thing.
Well, tell us about some of your other favorites in this room, which I'm sure they're all your favorites, but what would you like to point out to us?
I really enjoy getting it all. I think one of the best things is my nurses, because you want to surround yourself with nice things, and they're nice. They're always nice. So I really believe your surroundings should be you. You only live once. Surround yourself with the best you can find.
You know, what's interesting about this office, Dr. Leitman, is even the chairs are spectacular. Where do you get the chairs?
Well, a lot of them I just cover. I cover them with anything I think is colorful and beautiful. In particular, I love these chairs. I think when you go to an African museum, like I got this one at the Studio Museum in Harlem, I think their beaded work from Nigeria is the nicest things. Even in the Metropolitan Museum and the Museum of Natural History, their beaded work is the finest. And that's why I have it here. I think it's the nicest African art.
It is beautiful. And what about the table?
The table also from Nigeria. And the bottom is a hat I put underneath it. I get these a lot at flea markets. A lot of Africans are coming over now with the best stuff from Africa. So you try to get it.
And now, what made you put the little Matchbox car on the back of this chair?
I have no space left. And it says ambulance, and it says Dr. Leitman and an ambulance. It's anything. I put Hopalong Cassidy on that chair last weekend, a picture of Hopalong Cassidy. I put Roy Rogers up here. I put the strawberry twirl only because I think it's beautiful, it's stimulating, it makes you stop and think for a second.
Wow. I think, and then you have all these new creatures like this little alien here, the Betty Boop.
The action figures, it's the truest art. I go through the boxes at the flea market to find the colorful, exotic, I have a ball on the ball, kicking a ball. Yeah, this object on the door, I got last week at the Art Craft Museum in New York. It just stands out. Oh, this is a picture of my father who collected sand at D-Day in World War II, and he was the Grand Marshal of the Memorial Day Parade. That's a special thing that I keep up, and this is the sand he collected.
I like this quote, if you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much space.
I really believe that. If you got the energy, take a nap, get your energy together, and go out and discover new things.
And you certainly live up to what you believe.
I try every weekend.
Well, now I think we'd like to meet your nurses because they're an integral part of this office, so we'll ask them to come out and you can introduce them, okay? Dr. Leitman, would you introduce us to your nurses, please?
Pleasure. Andrea Case, Susan Curlin, and Terry Hatzmahalis.
Okay, well, we're going to ask you, Andrea, first. How do you like working here, and what's your favorite part of this office?
Okay, well, I've been here for 23 years, and it's grown significantly since I've been here. My favorite thing has always been the pictures on the ceiling. He took them himself, and they're really beautiful florals. In fact, I took a few and put them in my own house. So that's my favorite thing, but there's so many beautiful things here.
It is beautiful.
And every day it changes.
Susan, what about you?
I just like the color. Everything's so colorful. Like in the morning, especially when we come in and everybody's half asleep. And then you just hear the music and the carousels and bright, and then it just wakes you up and you just feel good. Even if you're in a bad mood.
Well, you certainly don't have a foggy day in here.
It just feels so good when you come in.
And what about
It's
you?
fun.
I love working here. What I like the best, though, is his Dr. Leitman's collage that he has of all the brooches. I just love them, and every time somebody comes in here, one of the patients, I keep on telling, well, this is my favorite thing, the collage of brooches, and they all say, oh yes, it's so beautiful, and I just think everything is really lovely here. I really like coming in the afternoon and enjoying the friends that I work with.
Well, that's great. Well, I tell you, Dr. Leitman, you have created a spectacular environment in this office. I can't imagine a nicer place to work. Now we're standing in front of a wall that's all about rocks, and you have not only rocks, but you have quotes about rocks, signs about rocks. Could you tell us about how this got started?
Again, it's about treasure hunting and collecting, and everything I see with the word rock on it. Rolling Rock, Stone IPA beer bottles, Rocky posters, Sergeant Rock, I'll Have It on the Rocks, Rocky Mountain Park, Women in Rocks, and Dems for the Rock. That was Rockefeller. So anything with the word rock, I get excited. If I see baseball cards, I skim them fast, look for the rock. And then I look forward. So there's a few steps. You look forward to finding it, going to find it. The trip there is sometimes I never get there. and then it's finding it, then it's looking forward to bringing it in, and then it's hearing the cut. Where are you going to put it up, and then hearing the comments of the patients.
Now you also have butterflies over here. Now the butterflies, you have real butterflies and jeweled butterflies. So you started with the real ones, I presume.
Right. That was when I was more into nature, and then I got everything from nature, and then I had to move on. There was no choice. So everything colorful, and the rocks, and then I started mixing it all, and the gemstones. One thing here says, the stuff that dreams are made of. I have a lot of things about how to live life. If there is no struggle, there is no progress. If you don't run your life, someone else will. I really firmly believe we're all so unique, and the more we're given the freedom to do the thing we want to do, that's in us, we know it. And when you go, the fun part is when you reach for your fantasies, you get sprung to a new fantasy that you didn't know existed.
Well, I like this one, and I think this applies to you. Look inside yourself, determine what you truly want to accomplish in life, and go for it. I think you've done that.
I'm lucky to be in this country at this time. It's a great, and in this location.
Well, you have created an absolutely wonderful environment for yourself and your patients. And as a patient of yours, as you know, every time I come in here, I'm amazed. And I love to come here because I like to see what you've added.
Thank you, Amy. Thanks for asking me. Thank you.
So thanks again for having us come today. And now let me ask you this. If anybody wants to come to look at your office, could they just come in?
I'm on it. I love it. We have people coming through it, bringing their grandchildren in, and every time I see it, I grin. It's all about sharing.
So people could just call and say, I'm coming in and I would like to see your office, and that's okay?
Amy, if I wanted this for myself, I put it in my house. The fun is having them pass through.
Okay, great. Well, thanks again, and again, lots of luck with your book.
Thank you very much.